Anytime, anywhere education. Whichcollege.co.
Aromagees Botanica, a metaphysical store for mind, body, and spirit. Oils, herbs, candles, crystals, teas, handmade soaps, tarot cards, everything you need on your magical journey. Daily psychic and tarot readings, classes, witchcraft, pagan, and hoodoo supplies, most of it made in-house. Try our free Dress Your Own candle station. From spiritual gifts to ritual supplies to religious books, we have the widest selection of metaphysical products in all of Tennessee since 1999. It is our goal to inspire everyone to explore their spirituality in their own way by offering information and products in a nurturing multicultural environment. Open 7 days a week. 223 Donaldson Pike, Nashville, Tennessee, or visit us online at aromagees.com.
A hand-carved natural quartz crystal ball made into a necklace for divination on the go. Crystal balls have been used for centuries in healing and cleansing rituals, as well as for divination. The sphere represents infinity and the circle of life. While a wand uses focused energy, the crystal ball sends out energy in all directions. This makes it a great resource for discovering the complete circumstances surrounding a question.
Sarah had been trying to write a book for ages, but she was still on page 1. Until she discovered SpeakYourOwnBook.com. Sarah teamed up with one of our trained writing coaches, who listened to Sarah's book idea, asked the right questions, and guided Sarah every step of the way. In 90 minutes, they had written the outline for Sarah's entire book. Within weeks, using the speak writing method, Sarah became a published author, both online and in print. Whether it's a textbook, an autobiography, a novel, or a children's book, SpeakYourOwnBook.com can help.
Yeah!
Visit our website today to download our free 50-question guide and schedule your free consultation. With Speak Writing, anyone can publish a book. Speak your own book today. You speak, we write.
You're watching Speak Your Own Book, the TV show, on Pagan World TV. Please welcome your host, Krys Copeland, head writing coach and co-founder of Speak Your Own Book.
Hi, thank you for watching Speak Your Own Book, the TV show. And my name is Krys Copeland. I am your host today. And I have with me a very dear old friend, as well as one of my favorite authors, Catherine Blakely. Kat, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Well, we're happy to have you here, and we want to kind of talk about several things that you do. First off, you're a priestess with the Corellian tradition, and so I want to note that first, that the reason you're on the show is because you're a pagan author. Now, when we talk about your book today, I want to give people a trigger warning very quickly, because the topic is not traditional paganism. The topic is based on true events from the life story of Kat herself, and her story growing up, and parts of it were added into the book. And so it's not necessarily a pleasant read, but it is an important read. So if you do have sensitivities to things like sexual violence or violence towards women, please don't listen to this. However, if you would like to continue, I think it will be highly useful for everyone to hear the story and understand its impact in society. So, Kat, first off, just tell us a little bit about the book and how connected it is to your life and your story.
Well, there are pieces throughout part 1 and part 2, both, that follow my life and then my mother's life, my biological mother's life. But I did make it fiction as well. So, I mean, there are things that are added that have not happened.
And so parts of it are based on your life, parts of it are based on your mother's life. And every single event, I want to explain that even though this is not technically absolute truth of what your life has gone through, this is realistic fiction, which means it has happened and it will continue to happen to young women and young girls all over the country. So can you tell us a little bit about the main character, Lily, and how she starts out at the beginning of the story?
Well, Lily is just a little girl that isn't exactly given the best chance a start at life, but she's strong. People are generally stronger than they think they are, and they can make it through a whole lot more than they think.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I noticed through the book as well. The strength of this character, and really the true strength of her, is her empathy and her kindness, her ability to connect with people across all walks of life, and put herself in their shoes and understand what they're going through. And that was kind of a theme throughout the book, that Lily, despite all of the horrific abuse that she went through, she still came out a kind person, a decent person, a giving person. And that's a really touching story, to see that, and that also in real life, you have been through a lot of things in real life. And at the I know you on a personal level. You are one of the kindest, sweetest, most giving people I know. And so I'm blown away by how much goodness you continue to give out into the world, and as well as Lily throughout the book. Um, how do you believe, and why did this happen? Why didn't you go a different route? And why didn't Lily go a different route in life, where she could have, ended up doing a lot of horrible things to other people, and instead she remained kind?
Well, it's along the lines of trying to break a cycle, because certain things have happened throughout my family for generations ongoing, and I don't know, I wanted to be the one to stop that. I didn't want to be my mom, so
Absolutely.
I wanted to change it.
And that's a really difficult thing that most people don't do, that most people don't have the strength to do, or maybe the resources to do. What strength or what maybe resources or people came into Lily's life throughout the book, and how are those people related to real life people that you have met throughout your life?
Well, her best friend that she ended up being with for a little bit, that didn't, that committed suicide. That one was actually based off of someone named Krys, a boy I met whenever I was little. That was a huge helper for me, that helped me stay afloat when I thought I couldn't. And she's had other friends come in throughout that I guess just kind of remind her that life isn't just that bad thing. And that's what helped her stay afloat. Because otherwise it's really hard to be in a bad situation like that and not focus in on all of that bad stuff. So those other people helped her bring her focus outside of everything.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I am fascinated by the character that you bring up, the one that's related to the in real life Krys, the Sky, the story of her and Lily meeting. One of the things I found fascinating about your writing was that you have this ability to describe mental health issues without naming the mental health issue. You describe people's reactions, their behaviors, maybe the swirling thoughts in their heads, and I find those certain passages really true to the real life behaviors that people who suffer from those mental health issues go through. In particular, I'm thinking of an incident where Sky is talking about her father having killed her sister, and all of a sudden she goes blank, and kind of freezes up. And I know that feeling because I also have PTSD, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is obviously a PTSD trigger. And you were able to paint that so vividly. How do you decide how to craft the words, how to choose the words to show a scene without telling us?
I guess just experience, just going back on experiences that I've had, that I've seen, that are around me. I use that. I don't like the terms because a lot of the people who have it generally don't sit there and talk about the actual name. It's the experience that matters most. So I use that instead.
I think that Yeah, I think that is an excellent writing technique. And if you're listening and you want to be a writer, take Kat's advice to heart here. Show that experience, show the behaviors, show the things going on that the person is experiencing internally and externally, and don't just say she has PTSD. She had a PTSD trigger. Yeah. Your use of dialogue is also incredibly interesting throughout the book. Most of this, I believe, takes place in Texas. I know there was a traveling back and forth as a child, and it showed, she understood that a large amount of time had passed, but she wasn't sure where she was in those situations. And I found that really fascinating, the way you kept that kind of sense of a child who really doesn't, you only see what Lily sees. You don't see outside of that. And so you're interpreting the entire situation through her, at the very beginning, through her 4-year-old eyes, and then again through her, I believe, 8-year-old eyes, and then 11-year-old eyes as she continues. That is a fascinating technique. But going back to the dialogue, the thing that I admired was that you put people's accents into the dialogue. So can you talk a little bit about how you did that, especially in regards to the Texas accent?
I guess I just used exactly what I heard in certain situations. And I wanted to have the characters be who I wanted them to be, which includes everything about them, I guess. When they talked, I heard their voice and heard how they would say things. So that's how.
Yeah. I love that technique as well. Adding in a phrase like, hey, y'all, that immediately shows the Southern accent. There's small techniques like that. But you go even further, you change a little bit of the spelling style to reflect the mannerisms of the speech, and you use punctuation to show pauses or changes in thoughts or anything else that's like an interruption to what's going on. Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about how you planned out this book. This takes a lot of individual characters and really brings them to life, and the plot line as well. How did you have this idea, and then where did you go from there?
This one I've been writing since I was really little, and I always said the first book I published would end up being my story. And I wouldn't like stray from that. It was going to be this story that I wrote first. As for getting ready for it, I tend to have a notebook that I keep for every book I write. And in that notebook, normally they're composition books, but I put different places throughout the notebook where I keep character information and place information and all the little details that I may or may not need. I make sure I have down in my notebook so I can go through it if I need to, so I can keep everything the way it's supposed to be. This one was really easy, mainly because of the experience of it, but that's how I outline my books. Yeah.
I think that's a great way to do it, especially if you're, a tactile or hands-on writer, where you like to have those notebooks, you like to have those writing utensils, and really dig into it. And I love the idea of using character profiles. That's something that we encourage in our writing sessions with aspiring authors, to use character profiles to keep track of all that character information, to use setting profiles to make sure you're not changing the details halfway through the story. It's very the word continuity comes to mind with this. That's a very important part of storytelling, is to make sure that things don't happen to just change without reason. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit. First off, I want to just show the audience very quickly what the cover of your book looks like. It's called Fate Won't Compromise. And I happen to just really love the cover art here. It reminds me of a very well colorized tattoo. I don't know if that's what you were going for, but that's what drew me into it. Was it looked kind of like a back tattoo, right? So tell me a little bit about the cover design and who did it and how it came about.
I was looking up a lot of different hearts, like broken up hearts, stages of painful hearts broken to healing. And actually, I went to my tattoo artist that I go to, and he ended up putting that together for me.
Wow, this is really beautiful work. So yeah, shout out to your tattoo artist. What are you able to give his name and share his information?
I mean, yeah, it's Cooper.
Cooper, and he's in the Dallas area. Is he at a shop?
Not right now. He's not.
Okay, so if you're If you're in the Dallas area and you're looking for a good tattoo artist, I'd recommend this guy just from the cover art here. And I love how you talked about you search for the images that you had in mind. That's something that we also recommend to our authors as well, who are struggling to figure out how to put together cover art as a self-published author. And I love the little details you can see in the background here on the heart, that it's literally stitched back together. So a lot of symbolism in this cover. And if you're listening out there and you haven't figured out your cover art yet for your book, start thinking about it. It's really important because people do judge books by their cover. Yeah, so Kat, tell me a little bit more about when you're talking about the plot line and how you set that up event after event. How do you check for continuity when you're finished? How do you make sure that everything you put in there it stays in the right place?
I actually check it as I go along. I continuously go back and recheck things to make sure that it stays like that. That's why I had the notebook as well. I had the outline for the book, as in every single chapter is outlined, and what I'm going to do for that chapter is written down as well. So I just make sure I stay with that and continue checking.
Yeah, that's the exact same thing we do when we're outlining books with Speak Your Own Book. It's the same method that I use to outline our textbook for the course. So if anyone is listening and wants to learn how to do that, there are steps that will guide you through the process that Kat is talking about in the book and in the course available at witchschool.com. So Kat, you talked about how this is your first book that you wanted published, which I find fascinating as well, because as a writer, I've always been writing for other people mostly. I'm a writer for hire, and I have in the back of my mind that, I do also have a kind of and you're familiar with it, a pretty abusive childhood. And rising out of that, and obviously I want to point out that my childhood was not anywhere near as horrific as Lily's, but abuse is abuse, and so I don't want to diminish anyone's abuse either. So I have this idea that I want to eventually write my own story, and I also have outlined mine. And I've written the first 2 chapters of it, but then I keep telling myself I'll wait for another 5 years and finish it up. What would you say to that?
You can't, because I did. I ended up writing the first 3 chapters, and a remark was made about what I had written that stopped me from continuing for about 8 years. And somebody else read what I had written so far, the first 3 chapters, and their view of it was entirely different and was kind of along the same lines of what I wanted it to be, to help other people. So I then continued writing it. After doing so, it felt amazing to be able to have finished that, so I wouldn't procrastinate.
I'm going to keep that in mind. Yeah, I'm going to keep that in mind, because I've also been challenged to write another book for the Witch School course. This one's going to be an edition for fiction writing, and so I think it's I really need to finish my book at the same time that I'm doing this book, so that I can show the process at the same time. So I'm going to commit to that challenge, that I'm also going to work on writing that other book this coming year, and hopefully both will be published. But Kat, let's talk about some of your other published works. I know you've got another book out. Tell us a little bit about that one.
It's a fantasy world that I worked on for a really, really, really long time, because I want it to be a series. And the first one is basically about a law change that affects the entire world at the end. But that world, the ancient earth, is almost every different kind of species, you know, you could think of living together along with humans and stuff. So it's, yeah.
Yeah,
It's a lot.
I'm excited to get into this one. I plan on purchasing it probably later tonight. I have a few other things to do, but I want to get started on this book as well. I'm really excited to see where you go in the fantasy world after I've seen the realistic fiction that you can create.
Yeah.
So I also want to point out the name of this book is Butterfly Dreams. It's book 1 in the Ancient Earth series, also under the title or under the author's name of Catherine Blakely on Amazon. Now, writing is not your only creative outlet as well. So I want to get into the other one in a minute, but I also want to point out to people that, as Kat has just described, creativity is a process that you go through, and you can learn. You can develop those skills over time, and you can continue improving. So that's something to keep in mind. So, Kat, tell us a little bit about your other creative endeavor with Witchy Kisses X3 on Etsy.
Well, I do everything I do basically is artistically related. That's my talent. So I love to create things as well, making things like physically. So I began with, well, in the beginning, I started with just selling tarot readings, but then I started making jewelry because I found out I liked it after giving it a shot. And then now, actually, I still make jewelry, but I do resin work as well.
Awesome. And I do notice here that you have several different things listed in the category section. So I kind of just want to point out a few. Obviously, we have spiritual jewelry for pagans. So that's a great thing to take a look at for our audience. And then I also want to look at the children's stuff. Now, you have 2 children of your own. In the book, Lily also has children. And I won't get into detail about that too much because I don't want to spoil it for the readers. But what kind of children's jewelry do you like to make? Where's your focus with that?
I just think about things that I would have liked when I was little. Just little things that I know would have been really pretty, would have caught my eye, that I would have wanted, I guess. And I use that.
That's awesome. I like the way that you just, kind of remember what you would have been interested in as a kid and go off of that. So another thing that I wanted to look at was the altar tools that you make. You have planchets for Ouija boards, and you have incense holders as well. How do you create these?
Those are my resin pieces that I found out I love doing as well. And I have many, many other designs and items and things that I have that I still need to post on there. But yeah, that's all my resin work.
And it's beautiful. I'm looking through the individual pieces here, and I love the planchets. This really reminds me of, there's a Ouija board maker in our community. I don't remember her name exact. I have a name in mind for who I think it is, but I don't want to say it in case I'm wrong. But it reminds me of her work with that. And if you're on any of the Corellian Facebook groups, you'll know the person I'm talking about. Her Ouija boards are amazing. I think these would make great kind of partnerships with her Ouija boards. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing our screen here because I have a couple of other topics that I want to switch back to in regards to the book Fate Won't Compromise. One of the things that I really loved was your use of foreshadowing, especially in the last few chapters. Now, and I don't want to spoil too much, but can you tell me how you developed your technique for adding little pieces of foreshadowing and hinting as to what's coming next?
Uh, I just, I had to give somebody, I don't know, life. There's a lot of things that happen that we don't pick up on, a lot of red flags, a lot of instances that people tend to ignore and don't take into account that end up something much bigger. And that's just entirely too common. But that was an easy way to give a heads up without saying it, I guess.
I actually love the word choice that you use there. If you change your foreshadowing to just be red flags that you notice, that makes it a very simplistic way of understanding what foreshadowing means. So if you're thinking about, if you're listening to this right now and you're thinking back to maybe people you've met that turned out to be not good for you or maybe toxic for you, and you think about those indicators that you should have paid attention to before, but you didn't understand or didn't know or didn't see them. And I think that's the same way with Lily. She always tried to see the best in people, so she never suspected the worst, and that didn't always land in her favor. So let's talk a little bit about the relationship with Sky in the story, especially in the reuniting later in the book. The relationship, the powerful connection, the love that these two characters have for each other is so apparent. I know that this is also based on someone in real life. Was that same level of passion and connection and empathy also in that original relationship for you in real life?
Absolutely. That was my best friend in the entire universe. Like, yeah, absolutely.
I really like that Lily had that one person to kind of hold on to throughout some of the worst years in her life. And it makes me feel better knowing that you also had that person to hold on to through some of the hardest parts of your life. You know, sometimes there may be people in our community also stuck in situations where maybe they are addicted or maybe they're struggling with mental health issues, or maybe they're caught up in sex work that they do not want to be a part of, and it's not their choice to do so willingly. What advice do you have for those listening who might be still struggling with that?
There there are others out there. One, you're not alone. That was a big one that I struggled with. You're not alone. And especially nowadays, there are so many resources and people that are willing to help now. Um, but it's going to be hard. That road to recovery, to healing, is awful and tough, but it's worth it. To be where you want to be in life is an amazing feeling that'll trump all of it, all of it that you go through to get there.
Absolutely. And I want to, touch a little bit more on the drug addiction. Lily was not someone who chose drugs. Drugs chose her before she was ever even born. Lily's mother. What situation? Let's describe that situation that Lily's mother is in at the beginning of her life.
Uh, in the beginning of her life, Sabrina's life.
And we can even go back further if you want to, fill in details on that. That would be very interesting.
It's like I said, it's a family generational thing that has happened, and I have made the decision to write books on certain characters from Fate Won't Compromise. Lily's mother being one of them, because that life it's terrible as well. Unfortunately, she wasn't one of the ones that could find a way out, as you know, to get better or anything, but her life started just about as bad as Lily's, if not worse, you could say, with her own father and events that happened to her. So she wasn't exactly given a chance either. Her life went the way that unfortunately a lot of lives do, and ended badly because she was never able to get out of it. Like I said, that's the hardest part, is getting out of it.
Absolutely. And I want to point out something that I've learned in my studies on this. It's something called the birdcage theory, and please feel free to Google it and verify the information I'm saying. But when you're looking at a bird, but your face is pressed up against the bird cage like this, you can't really see all of the bars that are holding it in. You only see one or two. And that bird, you're like, why is he so stupid? Why can't he just fly out? What's wrong with him? And I think a lot of people have that same perception, because they're too close up to the bar, so they only see a couple of issues going on in the person's life and not the entirety of the issues going on in their life. And you illustrated that beautifully by saying, yeah, Lily had it bad, but Sabrina went through so much more, right? And I resonate with that so much, because it's the same in my own family. We had generational poverty. My great grandparents were tenant farmers and migrant workers, and with generational poverty comes a lot of stress, and with stress tends to come abuse in those households. And my mother would say, when the abuse would be going on in our household, well, you have it so good compared to how we had it. And she's absolutely right. I won't deny that, because I've heard the stories. She had it way worse. That's very true. It still doesn't excuse the behavior that she had towards her own children. Yeah. And like you, I have also managed to find some forgiveness for my mother. I understand that this is because of the life that she led and everything that happened to her. She didn't know any better. She couldn't have done any better than what she did. And I've come to peace with that. How did you go through that process of finding peace with Sabrina?
I actually hated her for a really, really, really long time. But it wasn't until I finished the book and I thought about writing her story that I really sat there and came to that realization. Like, it's not her fault. No, it doesn't excuse it, but it's not her fault. I can't hate her for not being able to do something she was never taught. I can't hate her for doing exactly what she was taught, and that's it. Like, it's easier that way. That living the life that you know is easier, and I realize that now. I do.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that is especially true in the South, as far as generational abuse and generational poverty. It seems to happen at higher rates in the South. And my concern about that, I think it is related to the Christian religious fundamentalism that goes on in the South. I think it has a lot to do with that. But there's also just the sense of when you're poor, a sense of desperation, you know. just trying to survive minute by minute. And you could kind of, you showed that beautifully in the book when Lily would look at her mother almost as an idol, right? She idolized her when she was young. And I'm guessing you had that own same idolization of your mother. Yeah. Yeah. So what are the, I don't want to just say, that Sabrina was completely terrible, because while she had a lot of issues and in many ways she did terrible things, you had love for her. So tell me a little bit about the good things you remember from her.
Well, it's not necessarily that there's good memories together. It's the fact that I saw that she wanted to make good memories. She wanted to be a mother. She did want to, and she showed that. And I guess that's what I clung to, because I knew that meant she cared. She did love me. And no matter what was going on, that never changed. So I loved her back for that a lot. Like, she was my entire world for years because she wanted to be my mom, I guess.
And I think I had a similar relationship with my mother as well. First off, I also had a huge amount of hatred for her throughout my late 20s and well into my early 30s, because of all the things that she had put us through. But just like you described Sabrina, my mother, she tried to do good things for the family. She tried to, like maybe take us on vacation to Galveston or something. And then she wanted to be absolutely perfect the entire time. And of course, we're whiny little kids, so we're not being absolutely perfect. And she would scream and yell and threaten to beat us. And then occasionally our stepfather would actually do that. So it was that kind of mentality, the same as Sabrina's. I want to be a good mom. I'm doing all the things that my parents did to me to make me turn out okay, and I turned out okay. So I should do the same things, maybe not so much, but the same things to my own kids. Yeah. And you broke that cycle and Lily broke that cycle. So, if people read the story, that they can find out how Lily broke that cycle. Lily also had a bit of a relapse when she became clean from drugs. And I think it's so important that you put that in there, because so many people think that, it's like this: you just cut it off cold turkey and then you're fixed and that's it. And no, oftentimes there are relapses, sometimes multiple relapses, because it's a disease like cancer. Cancer can come back. So can a drug addiction. Um, why did you add that situation of a relapse in there?
Because it's real. That's real. I've relapsed before. I've pretty much everybody I know that's had the same issue, that has tried to be clean, relapses. That's because drugs are everywhere. And I mean everywhere. It doesn't matter how good of a neighborhood you're in. It doesn't matter what kind of life you're living inside of your house. Drugs are out there. And generally, they're going to find their way back to you. You've just got to be able to be strong enough to get away from it. Or in her case, she relapsed. She tried not to, but she ended up relapsing anyways. And that's just the truth of how things go.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that it is just how things go sometimes. It is a disease, and people have to understand that and stop. I like that the everyone around Lily, when she came back, when she asked for help, they immediately forgave her and gave her all the care and all the love she needed. And I'm hoping that was also the same for you in real life.
Yeah, basically. I
Good.
mean, everything came back and got better than it was before too. I mean, relapsing is never easy. And of course, technically I've relapsed a few times, but the last time I did was the last time. That was 14 years ago. So I've been very lucky to be able to have gotten this far this time. And without the people I have around me, I wouldn't have.
Absolutely. And we need, if we have people in our lives that are struggling with addiction, it is so important to show compassion and
Yeah.
support and love, even through the hard times, because if you don't, it's the same as blaming a cancer patient for a relapse. So, yeah. When we look at the story of Lily's life and the way she relapsed, I won't spoil how it is, but I want to point out that it was a relapse based on her trying to help somebody else. Yeah. And I won't explain how that situation happened, but I did notice that the 14-year-old that she was helping was named Kat or Catherine in the story. Was that a nod to your own 14-year-old self or to yourself in some way?
It's kind of, I guess, kind of a, I wouldn't say irony, but at age 14 is when I got heavy on meth. So yeah, in a way it was, I guess. It was kind of what I wish would have happened instead of what did.
I see a lot of that throughout the book, a reimagining of your life, you know, maybe things that go differently. And even in Lily's life, even when things go differently, it's still not a it's a bittersweet ending. I will say that, a bittersweet ending. And you know, I was talking to my partner about the book yesterday, and living in the Netherlands, where we have lots of support networks for people, especially people in sex work, people struggling with addiction, and we don't have those resources in America, unfortunately. But he didn't quite understand why people in America can't just go and get help when we need it. You know, that's just showing a little bit of his naivety, in that, and he realized immediately that he was being naive about it. But it really does go to that idea of people casting judgment, maybe, or assuming things about people. Can you explain a little bit why it is so hard, especially in America, to find help when you're struggling with these issues?
A lot of people, it starts with the support around them, and a lot of people don't have that anymore. And if they do, their support doesn't know how to be supportive, if that makes sense, because they don't know they need to do it with compassion and love, and no matter what, a lot of people think they need to be hard and make that happen, you know, no matter what, you got to be very hard with them, and that's generally not gonna work. And yeah, they do get judged immediately whenever they go somewhere to ask for help, and asking for help in itself is hard, is one of the hardest things anybody can do. So they have to get through those first steps to even begin to get help. Finding it and it being real help is really, really difficult here, because there's too many times I've been to rehab and, you know, met my next drug user that was my friend. You know what I mean? Like, they're not safe places. There are no safe places really for people trying to get better. Not anymore. So it's an issue. It's a huge issue.
Absolutely. I find that incredibly, you know, I'm realizing that as long as I've been here in the Netherlands now, I also feel too detached from the reality of what life in America is actually like anymore, and how difficult it can be for people struggling with these issues. If people are struggling, what do you know of, like, what do you recommend that they do? What's the first step they should take?
talking to someone, like really talking to someone, but that means to find somebody that they're comfortable with. But it's going to be hard. You're not going to want to tell somebody, everything that you're feeling. A lot of people don't want to say everything they're feeling just because they don't want to hear it out loud. It makes it real. But you have to be able to do that in order to begin healing, and finding those people or one person that can help you, that you can trust, that you can talk to, that will be there no matter what. What a lot of people call ride or die. Those people are some of the most important people you'll ever have in your life, and you need to go there and talk first. Research places, or have your friends research places before you just go to one, because there's a lot of them, like I said, that are pretty twisted inside, and they let too much happen to where it's not helping. It's just broadening your horizon of people to do things with. So yeah, you have to research places, talk to somebody and research more than anything, before you go somewhere.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that, because I've had counseling and even psychiatric help in Texas and Oklahoma and Indiana and now in the Netherlands. And I have to say, the only ones that really helped were in Indiana and the Netherlands. Texas tends to have a big problem with not having enough quality resources or people that are truly knowledgeable and compassionate and caring in the counseling industry. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about something a little bit more positive I found in the book. It was the way little slices of, like, what I like to call poor folk Americana are just dropped throughout the book. One in particular I remember very clearly, because it's also something that I grew up with, is homemade, really cheap spaghetti and garlic bread made on white bread with garlic powder on top. So why was that Lily's comfort food in the story? Why did you choose that one?
Honestly, I picked that one because it's my son's. That is his favorite meal ever. And it's just, and like you just said, I've had it my entire life. I mean, that's always been something that's been around. So it's an easy, cheap comfort food that people can fall on if they need to.
Absolutely. It's still one of my favorites. I'm cooking, well, my boyfriend is cooking it tonight. And so it's one that we have maybe once every couple of weeks too. That just kind of really cheap but good food. So let's talk about some of the other, how did you come up with the ideas for what places to include, how to kind of touch on the heartstrings of people who have also gone through that or also experienced those same things in America?
There were some places that, I mean, of course, nothing has the correct names, and everything, but, well, like streets and areas and stuff like that. But a lot of it was where I grew up when I was little. A lot of it is exactly what I saw, but I added certain places, restaurants, things like that, and kind of mixed it in with the fiction, I guess, to make you realize that it's still real. I mean, it's a fiction book, but it's very real. Unfortunately, that stuff happens every single day, regardless. So, I mean, where there's a Sonic, there's drug addicts. So it just is everywhere.
As a former Sonic car hop, I can confirm this. So yes, it's just everywhere. And but I do find like the way you describe it, it could be literally any town in America. And that's exactly what you're going to see there. The strip malls, there's going to be that little bookstore, there's going to be the Sonic drive-in. And I love the way you craft the scenes, the details that you add into the story. That's a skill that is very difficult to teach to writers, but it seems to be one that you have really innately within you. You're able to pull out these details. So when you're thinking about how you're going to craft that scene, how you're going to put in those details, do you brainstorm with a lot of different ideas? Do you sketch it out? Do you write it out? How do you do that?
I write a lot of it out. I have sketched some of it. It just depends on if I'm going off of memory or if I'm making it, creating it. That each one requires different ways of getting it out there. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Now, kind of to just wrap up here for a minute, I want to finish with two thoughts. As someone who has borderline personality disorder, I see things in extremes, and I experience things in extremes as well: extreme joy and extreme happiness, extreme sadness, extreme anger. And I could see that Lily also has a lot of these same extremes in herself and in her life. Um, what was the reason behind crafting the character with those extremes?
Um, because it's real. It's what I know. I mean,
Yeah. And for people who live in extremes, I think both of us are types of people who live in extremes, or at least have had periods of extremeness in our past. Myself with all of the things that I've had in my life, and you with all of the things that you've had in your life. When you think about your life so far, the sum total of it, um, is all of the tragedy, all of the heartache, all of the loss, um, is it worth the amount of joy and happiness and love that you also have been able to experience in life?
I wouldn't change anything for the world, all the way back to her being pregnant with me on a street corner. Like, it doesn't, all of it, I wouldn't want to change, because I know who I am, and that's really special to me. To be able to be young and know who you are is apparently kind of different now. And it's led me to where I am as well. I've had certain experiences that would have never been an option had I had something, you could say, better or different. And I wouldn't want that. I love exactly what my life is, what it has been.
I have that same feeling about my own life. Like, there are a lot of hard things that I went through, but where I'm at now in life, if I had to go through all of that again plus fire too, I would do it all to get where I'm at today, because I'm so happy today compared to where I was before. Yeah. And I kind of want to just end on that high note, because Lily, like you as a mother, broke the cycle. Lily's children will never work the street. Lily's children will never be on drugs. And it's the same for your own. Your children will never have to go through any of the things that you went through. How does that feel, knowing that you did that as a mother?
It's amazing. It's all I wanted. I didn't want to be my mom. Like, that's all I wanted. I wanted them to be happy and not ever have those feelings and experiences and stuff that I had. The really, really, really dark times and stuff. I'm glad that they'll never have to feel that. That's exactly what I wanted for my kids.
Yeah. And I've met your kids. They're fun, rambunctious young boys, and I tell them that I say hi because I do miss them too, as well as you. And hopefully one day you can come over here and visit us in the Netherlands, and maybe we can come back to Texas and see you again too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So just as a closer here, how can people find you online, and how can people find your books and your merchandise?
My books are on Amazon. My merchandise is on Etsy on Witchy Kisses ×3. And I am on Facebook, I guess, mostly is where you can find me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Catherine, for joining in today. Everyone, please go out and check out her book. Just read through the first 3 pages. That is enough to catch your interest and buy the full book on Kindle. I was fascinated by it, and I'm looking forward to reading the second book that you have put out as well. So thanks for coming today, Kat.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for listening in to Speak Your Own Book. Again, my name is Krys Copeland, and please have a blessed day.
Thank you for watching Speak Your Own Book, the TV show on Pagan World TV, hosted by head writing coach and co-founder Krys Copeland. Please join us next time on Speak Your Own Book.
Sarah had been trying to write a book for ages, but she was still on page 1 until she discovered SpeakYourOwnBook.com. Sarah teamed up with one of our trained writing coaches who listened to Sarah's book idea, asked the right questions, and guided Sarah every step of the way. In 90 minutes, they had written the outline for Sarah's entire book. Within weeks, using the speak writing method, Sarah became a published author, both online and in print. Whether it's a textbook, an autobiography, a novel, or a children's book, SpeakYourOwnBook.com can help.
Yeah.
Visit our website today to download our free 50-question guide and schedule your free consultation. With Speak Writing, anyone can publish a book. Speak your own book today. You speak, we write.